Hello, Teodora.
Hello, Julia.
How can technology play a role in making aviation more sustainable?
I think there's a lot of attention on the aviation industry because it's seen as very stubborn, especially when we talk about green aviation. But what people often don't see and they don't know about is that there's a myriad of different projects working on making aviation sustainable on the long run and really touching upon the green aviation, and this is possible. When is the question? But currently, there are a number of initiatives that would actually change things in the medium to long term. And maybe if we have to focus on just a couple of them, it's very encouraging to know that as soon as 2028, we are going to have fully electric commercial aircraft flying in short haul distances, developed by a Swedish company. And this is something really tangible. Of course, this is not a solution that is applicable to medium and long haul, but it's something that we are really looking forward. And the other thing is the third generation sustainable aviation fuels, synthetic fuels, that could bring emissions down to 99%, which means that we are going to be almost emission-free flying. And this is something that if we have green hydrogen, which is not easy, but should happen in the future, and if we manage to use the carbon captured from the atmosphere, this would give us the possibility to actually fly almost with no emissions.
Mm-hmm. And you said to me that in a way, it's not only a matter of technology, but a matter of collaboration between the travel players.
Yes, I mean, when you talk about tourism, you're facing a sector with a huge value chain, and it's not organized around the selling of the product. The product is a destination, and it actually revolves around it. So it's quite a particular case, and cooperation is crucial from anything in tourism. But now that the industry has to go through a very deep transformation process with a lot of challenges, competing challenges, because it's very difficult to keep an eye on the long-term vision when you have COVID and you're not operating because you're closed, right? But when we see that, where we see tourism developed well, we see that it's usually based on stakeholders' cooperation. And for that, of course, data sharing is very important. So first having the data, because you cannot change anything that you cannot measure, but also sharing this data with the other stakeholders. This is of crucial importance.
Mm-hmm. And who have to pay for this, for making the travel more sustainable?
Well, I think that usually how it would go is that it would be either the industry voluntarily trying to switch to better, more green processes because the consumer expects it or wants it. But this would happen in the very long run. And what we see happening, especially in Europe, is that it is actually the legislator who imposes certain standards and requires businesses to operate differently in order to be green. This has a cost for the business that is eventually passed on to the consumer because prices are going up because of certain requirements. But what we also need to see, and we will see increasingly, is that actually the public support, the public funding for certain changes will be there. Because let's take again aviation, it's such an expensive technology to be implemented, and even sustainable aviation fuels, they exist, but they are not scaled up. And this is something that would require public investment, because otherwise it will just not happen. The market would not, they're too expensive to be produced on a larger scale, bought at a larger scale, so the market would not fix it. You need the governments to intervene. So I would say that fairly it would be probably 50-50 shared cost.
Mm-hmm. And the consumer at the end will have to pay in a way in the ticket
consumer,
price, or
exactly, yeah, the consumer will have to pay because the industry has to pay. But of course, then it's the real finding the balance between the carrot and the stick. How much can the industry handle? How much can the industry pass on to the consumer before the consumer says, you know what, I opt out, I don't buy your product, it's too expensive for me. So the industry player then has to close down because they cannot sell their product because of public requirements which are just too imposing. It's very important to find that balance. It's the challenge to find that balance, and hopefully we'll get there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia.